Well, good morning. I know there's some people here missing that are waking up. What time is it? And if some people walk in here around 12, a little after 12, just welcome them. That happens. I was talking about an experience I had early in ministry and showed up way too early to church. I was talking about that in class, so it happens. All right, so today I want to start with talking about this story that the old story about this man who had gone, he had this idea he was going to go up and tie some balloons to his lawn chair, kind of the ones that stretch out, and he thought, you know what, I bet if I put helium balloons, it could pick me up a little bit. Then he had this better idea, he thought, you know what, I can put a bunch of balloons, big ones, and I bet it'll take me a couple hundred feet up in the air. And he said, I'm certain it'll happen. So he packed a lunch. Peanut butter and jelly sandwiches, and and sure enough, that when he released it, and by the way, he took a BB gun with him, so he was going to knock out some balloons to come down, and it actually did work. It worked so well that he passed 200 feet, started shooting some of those balloons, and that did not work. He kept on going to the point where he was in the way of airplanes. The authorities were called. And he finally got down. By the time he got down, he couldn't believe all that happened. The authorities were there, reporters were there, and they had this one question. They asked him, "What possessed you to do it?" And so this guy just kind of looks at the reports and says, "Well, you got to do something." I mean, there was nothing genius about it or anything great coming out of his mouth, but the whole point with him was that he just was tired of just laying around, and he needed some joy in his life. And I wonder if we do that sometimes, because there's something missing in our lives. It's not there anymore. Maybe in our work life, maybe in our daily life, at work, at school, maybe with my family, and we do silly things sometimes. Finding joy. I want to talk about that today because James talks about it. He says we can find joy in a difficult journey. It's kind of crazy the ways the letter of James starts. It begins this way. Consider all joy, my brethren, when you encounter various trials. And if you were there, you wouldn't like those words. I think if somebody came up to me and said something silly like that, you almost want to slap them. Oh, you like trials? I'll take that one. You like that? Are you happy now? Right? It just seems like we would react that way. But I think he's saying that we're going to end there. Right? We're going to end there. I remember when I used to love board games, and when I lived at home, I had a lot of brothers and sisters, so that was a thing my parents and grandparents gave us, and so we played board games all the time, and by the time, I was only younger than one, so when older siblings left, there was no one to play with, but I learned all kinds of stuff. I loved playing chess, and so I had no one to play with. Finally, I got married, and my wife said she wanted to learn. I thought, awesome, we get to play. And so one of the things that I told her was, the strategy is you got to think about the end. Well, what do you want to happen at the end? How do you want to win? So you have a strategy for that. I had no idea she had her own strategy. So we played for weeks. I think it was weeks, maybe months, and so we kept playing and playing, and she finally beat me. And we never played again. To this day, we haven't played. That was about over 25 years ago. But I think about how that's the end, right? We have what would happen at the end. I think James is trying to tell us that here. This could be you. You can have this joy that comes at the end. It doesn't come at the beginning. He explains it, says, knowing that the testing of your faith produces endurance. And most of us know what endurance is. If you're a runner, a distance runner, you really know what that is. When you first go out for a mile, you pass a mile, for your first time, you start to feel pains, and most of us will stop and go, oh, forget this hurts. Right? We do that. But a distance runner, they've been through all that. They run through, once you pass 3 miles, if you run some miles, you pass 3 miles, you get all kinds of stuff for the first time, and you'll feel it the next day, the day after that. But you learn to deal with it. Not only physically, but mentally. When the next time you get it, like, yeah, I know what that is. Oh, that hurts, but I'm going to keep, right? That's endurance. And James is saying, you can have this. When you're tested, when bad stuff happens, then this happens also. Let endurance have its perfect resolve, that you may be, reach your goals of the idea of perfection here, and complete, lacking in nothing. And we can maybe still be thinking, what? Really? We go through all to get this, that we will lack nothing? And James knew well that we would ask something like this. What if I still don't know what to do? What if I... and I hate to quote Mike Tyson, but Mike Tyson had this idea that he would say, everybody has a plan until they get punched in the face. Right? Then everything changes. Like they had to plan how they're going to beat Mike Tyson, but when they felt this power, it's like, okay, forget it. I don't know what this is. Right? That happens in our Christian walk too. Right? We have this great plan, and I'm going to be really strong. I'm going to read my Bible. I'm going to pray. I'm going to go to church. I'm going to do all this great stuff, and then pow. Right? And we're like, what in the world just happened to me? That happens in our Christian walk. Jesus was on to say this, but if you lack wisdom, let him ask of God. If you're still struggling, if you know that you're going through this process and you don't know what to do, here's the thing. A lot of times we think, if I just knew more Bible, if I just memorized more Scripture, if I just find this sage that has incredible words, and out of his mouth they come like silk into my heart, and then the lights go on, and I'm going to figure all this out. Jesus says, no, that's not how it works. I even heard people say things. I remember when I was a young man in my 20s coming up and listening to older preachers, and they say things like, everything you need to know is right here. I think they meant well. But that's not what James tells us here. He's not saying you're going to find that right passage, the right book, the right... He says, no. See, you do need to read the Bible. I'm not saying that. We need to learn Bible. You should learn it. But there's some situations in your life when you need to get on your knees and pray. And that God gives us revelation, yes, through His Word, but revelation also. Wisdom, He says. He'll give you the wisdom when you just don't know what to do. And He says, who gives to all people, that's what it means there, generously and without reproach, and it will be given to Him. But we need to pray. This story about this one guy who got up one morning, and you remember when there was water beds? I don't know, maybe you still own one. I don't mean to offend you. But when there was water beds, I never had one for me. We had one for our kids. It was a crazy thing. But anyway, there's a story about this one guy who wakes up one day, and there's a puddle in the middle of the bed. And he thought, how can I find a hole? I'm going to make a big mess. So he drags that blob out to this yard. And he begins to fill it out. He was thinking, if I fill it all up, it's going to squirt. I find that hole, and I cover it, and we're done. Well, he fills it all up, turns into a big ball. And then, as it turns into a big ball, it begins, because he's on a hill, his house on the hill, begins to roll. And it breaks away from the holes, and there's a big mess. Goes into the bushes, and it breaks, the bushes break all kinds of holes into it. Now it's squirting everywhere, and he's like, he threw his hands up. And he was so frustrated, he went to get the frame, and he threw it out in the dumpster, threw everything away. Went and bought one, he thought, I'll just get rid of the problem. Then the next morning he wakes up, and there's a puddle in the middle of the bed. It turns out the ceiling was leaking, he never saw it. And sometimes we want to do that with our problems. We want to pray to God, just get everything out of here. And then there's that leak again. Yeah, we can get rid of it. We think we walk away from the situation. Get away from that. For all that is bad. And all of a sudden, we're right back where we were. And James says, see, that's the thing about what you need to go through. So you could grow. This will put endurance. In other words, this is how you get spiritual muscle. This is how you get it. You need to go through some stuff. And here's the result of the experience, right? He would say, now you can consider all joy, my brothers, when you encounter various trials. When you see the end result, you are where you need to be. Jesus puts it this way about joy. Right here, he's speaking to the disciples. He just told them he's leaving, and he's going to the cross, and they're crushed. And remember chapter 14, he begins with, let not your heart be troubled. Remember that? Because they're struggling. And they don't have any joy. I mean, this guy's every morning. They can't believe it. Where are you going? They don't get it. He goes, oh, no. He says, until now you have asked nothing, right? For nothing in my name. Ask, again, pray, and you will receive that your joy may be made full. And you're a disciple, and Jesus is leaving. You go, what? I don't understand, Lord. What is happening? Where you're going and what's going to happen to us? And he goes, here's what you need to do when you're in trouble. Pray for joy. Says the same thing. Nehemiah, in this covenant renewal, when the people have gone to exile, now they're back in the land, and God's going to restore us spiritually and physically, and there's this renewal that is happening. The ceremony here says, go, eat of the fat, drink of the sweet, and send portions to him who has nothing prepared, for this day is holy to our Lord. Then he says this, do not be grieved, for the joy of the Lord is your strength. That's what Jesus was saying. You need strength right now, and what you need in your heart is joy. We don't think about that. When we're going through these difficult times, we don't think about joy. That's the last thing. In fact, when we're mourning, a lot of times when something's gone bad, we even feel guilty when we're laughing or something. We're like, should I have joy right now? And God says, I want you to have my joy when you're mourning, when you're going through some difficult time. James will say, this is how you're going to end up. Blessed is a man who perseveres under trial. This is chapter 1, verse 12. For once he has been approved, this is tested and approved, is what it means here. He'll receive the crown of life. The crown of life, this was a wreath that was put on people's heads. Remember, this was done for somebody who was victorious in a race. Or something that was a military victory. When you came in, that was placed on your head, and then you got in front of the people, and you were the champion. You were victorious. And that's what James is saying. Once you're going through all that, you really grow, and you really persevere. Now you're a victor. Now you can be crowned. Now you are where you're supposed to be. And that's hard sometimes. I don't feel like a victor. Again, if you're an athlete and you just went through something, you ever seen football players at the end? They're all victorious, the race, they got their hands in the air, and some are all bloody and stuff. Like, how can you be cheering? You're all beat up, right? But they won. They know they accomplished something. James says you can feel the same way. At the end, James in chapter 5 says, behold, we count those blessed who endured, who have heard of the endurance of, you have heard the endurance of Job. Remember Job? He lost everything. Job lost his kids. He lost his wealth. And now Job, remember, he even loses his health. And right there, his wife looks at him, no support. She says to him, hey, why don't you just curse God and die? Right? That's all you got left, Job. And he doesn't. And we're told that you heard the endurance of Job and have seen the outcome of the Lord's dealings, that the Lord is full of compassion and merciful. And going back to the story, this is Job 42, verse 12. And the Lord blessed the latter days of Job more than the beginning. I love that. Life was never the same for Job. But he had a lot more. Everything that God had lost and had taken away from him, God gave us so much more. Was life the same? No. I told you the story about my son when he was in a car accident. And we prayed, we didn't know we're going to have him that first night. We didn't know if he's going to live. And life was never the same. To this day, my son is on medications. He'll have medications for the rest of his life. It's not the same. But we have them. And here's the kicker. Now I have 2 grandkids. Not only did I give my son back, I got more. A whole lot more. But that night they were going through that, I didn't feel like it. I couldn't see that. I couldn't someday think that I would look at pictures and show them to people that don't want to see them, because I'm so proud of me, right? That I have grandkids. I couldn't see that day, that night. It didn't feel like it. But I'm more blessed today than I was then. There's a story about this orchard where this man is actually checking out a bunch of them. He's going through his neighborhoods and they're all dry. There's been a drought. And then he keeps on driving. Then he passes by this home, and all the citrus trees behind that house are just green and full of fruit and just blossoming. And he stops. He can't help but stops, knocks on the door, and he asks the man to open the door. Can I go to your backyard? And they both walk to the back. And the guy's really surprised. He goes, have you seen your neighbors? And he goes, yeah. Where are you getting your water from? He goes, well, I'm not watering my trees. I'm suffering the same thing others have. He says, well, what has happened? He said, the man said, here's what I did. When the trees were small, I purposely kept water from them, just barely hanging on so they got to where they're supposed to be and go deeper. The root is the result. The roots went a lot deeper to find moisture. And now that the winds are coming and there's a bunch of heat and there's no water, they're just thriving because they're going on deeper. And that's what happens to us when we go through some bad experiences. Jesus would say, when you do the things I told you to do, the winds will come. and they will blow, and you will stand. That's what we're talking about here. We're going to go through some bad stuff, but once we've gone through it, our roots will be deeper, and we will be greater, and we can stand firm. This one, I'm just going to punch it up there for you because I'm going to also plug in my class. But really, this is about the kingdom of heaven, right? Because there's joy in the church. For the kingdom of God is not of eating. There has some issues in the church. It's not about the small stuff, is the point here, but righteousness. And this is the barometer for what is it? Are we healthy? For righteousness, we must have peace and joy. Do we have that as Christians? Do we have that? Is there peace and joy in my life? You can check that. This makes us healthy because we're not going to talk about, man, this person does this, they eat this, they don't eat that, this bothers me when they do that. That's what's happening in that text. Paul says you can check all that because that's not that important. What's important is you have righteousness and peace and joy in the Holy Spirit. And number 3, joy is found in the mundane. And by this mean the earthly and not so much the heavenly, right? That right here, right now. Because mundane can mean just like stuff that bore us, but I mean that. What we encounter every single day. Paul puts it this way in Colossians 3, verse 23 and following. Whatever you do your work heartily, as for the Lord rather than men. He says, when you go to work or you go to school, or whatever you do in life, don't think like, I can't stand those people where I work. I can't stand my boss. You ever hear people say stuff like that? You ever feel like you're passed up for promotions? People don't like you. The nicer you are, the more they talk behind your back and nothing. And Paul says, I know stuff is going to happen. In fact, he's addressing slaves who are mistreated in the first century. He says, keep on going. Don't think about who's your boss here. Your boss is over there. You ever seen those bumper stickers that says, my boss is a Jewish carpenter? I love that. It's talking about the Lord. Knowing that from the Lord, you'll receive the reward of the inheritance. In other words, because you've done this, because you do this, there's a reward coming to you. It is the Lord Christ whom you serve, not the people around you. I know that it feels that way. You have to put up with so much stuff in many places, but don't worry. It's not those people that you're serving. It's for God. And God doesn't forget about you. John Maxwell said this, outside of genetics, job satisfaction is the single most powerful predictor for longevity. Meaning, if you had your job, you're not going to live long. And maybe you're listening like, oh. But don't worry, Paul says, I got good news for you. You're not serving that job. Those aren't your bosses. If the Lord is your boss, then you have all kinds of good things. You have all kinds of hope. You'll be rewarded here, and you'll be rewarded later as well. Isn't that good news? This man, Ken Ben-Shahar, is a professor in an Ivy League school, and he teaches positive theology and leadership. And he's very successful. A lot of people want to attend his classes and waiting lists and all that good stuff. And he worked with businesses, and he was very successful. He thought, if I could do that here in the United States, I bet I could do this in a third world country. So he goes to this school. He writes about this experience he had. He went to this poor area in a third world country, goes to a school, and he thought, man, I need a translator because they don't understand what I'm saying. And so he thought, I'll begin with humor. Yeah, I'll connect with humor. He gets a translator, and he's talking to a bunch of students. I think he's in a high school, and he says, all right, tell me this. Ask him this. He tells the translator, how many of you like homework? And because he'd done that in America before, hardly anybody raised their hand. But at that place, those kids knew what opportunity they had. All the hands went up. And then he thought, oh, he got a little stuck. His joke didn't work. Why? Because no matter how hard the tests were, no matter how much homework they had, no matter what they had to go through, no matter how hard the professors were on them, they thought, what a great opportunity. And Paul is writing that way. James is writing that way. What an opportunity to live and breathe. I heard one professor say one time, the only people that don't have any problems are in graves. Today you have an opportunity. You and I have an opportunity that we can see challenges as opportunities. And there is a rewarder, someone waiting is just looking at us to see what endurance, what muscle we develop, and how we can share that with others. Folks, that is my message to you today. That is my message. But I want to leave you with this blessing today. The Lord bless you and keep you. The Lord make his face shine on you and be gracious to you. The Lord lift up his countenance on you and give you peace. If you're here this morning and you want to give your life to Christ, if you need to study more, I am available to you. If you're ready to make that decision now, that is available to you. We don't have a baptistry, not in this building. We will at the next building, but I can find water today. And if you need to study anything else or pray about anything you're going through, we're available for you. If you want to come to the front and pray, or you need something, come to the front this morning as we stand and sing.